Hi there, and welcome to this Airtable series, where we're going to show you how you can use Airtable and Make.com together. We're focusing on Airtable right now because we find it to be a better solution other than Google Sheets. It's like Google Sheets, but then on steroids. What we're going to show you in this video is how you can use your basic triggers and what are more advanced versions of using it. We found this very handy because every automation needs a different trigger to get started off with. So if you understand how triggers work, it will make your whole automation within Make.com a lot easier. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you off to David, who's going to take you into the nitty gritty of setting all of this up. And just before I do, Airtable is a paid for tool, but in this video, we're going to show you how you can use it for free within Make.com. Here's David.
Thank you, Alex. So, just to recap, we're going to show you the ultimate guide to triggering Make.com from your Airtable. So this is sending instant triggers. So when a condition is met, so we've got to set up some automations inside of Airtable that will send a webhook to trigger to begin the automation inside of Make.com, and then we'll fetch in all of the data from your Airtable and be able to manipulate it inside of Make.com. So we can do all sorts of interesting things like create an email, we can use OpenAI, we can generate an image, we can Slack a team member, we can send a Teams message, update Google Drive, many possibilities. But it's just, learning how to get the foundation, the basic steps, and then moving along with your automation process. So here we are, we've built out a small Airtable here with just some examples of what you can do inside of your Airtable to trigger things. So I've given some just examples here. We've got status change, checkbox, conditions, enters a view, interface button, when a form submitted, and then a final one here of a time-based trigger. So this one's quite useful if, say, you're running a social media account and you need to publish on a certain time and date. So we'll set that one up. So if you stick with me, I'll run through all of these, show you the automations inside of the Airtable itself, and I will show you everything inside of Make.com. So what I'm going to do now is I will open up our Make.com scenario. It's a very simple scenario that we got set up here. We've basically got watch responses, and I've copied this mail hook here, webhook, and added it to our Airtable automation list. So I'm just going to return here and we go to automations. And if I show you our first example, we have status. So this is the beginning of the automation. So when a record matches a condition, and the table name that we're looking for is the webhook examples. So when the status equals send a webhook, then this automation will get triggered, and then an action will occur. So the action that we're going to invoke is this one here. So I'll just show you the script. Here we have I'll read it out, and then I'll explain how everything works. So we've got let record equals input.config, and then we're going to set a variable of content webhook equals await fetch, and then inside of some brackets we've got our webhook that we just saw earlier inside of Make.com, and that goes as far as here. Then we are appending a question mark, and then we're passing this record ID equals, and then we have the $, and then in curly brackets record.record ID, and then that's the end of our script. So if you see on the left-hand side here, I've got some input variables. All of this information here is fixed, all the way up to the record equals question mark. And then from there, I'm saying I want to push in some variable information. So the information will come from when the condition is met. So here we are declaring record ID, and I've done that in camel case. So it's record capital ID. And then I am adding a variable. So what I've done is when the condition is met, we are just passing through the record ID of whatever the trigger was. So if I was to finish editing, maybe I want to test this automation. Let's select the record, and you can see that nothing is matching the conditions that we've got set out. So what I'm going to do is go over to our Airtable, and I will change the status. But what I want to do is first make sure that the automation is switched on. And then you'll see everything get passed through, and I'll explain what's going on. So I'm going to switch this on. return to our Airtable, and if I change this to send webhook, we'll return to make.com. We should see this mail hook webhook get triggered, and you see it's just gone 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's happened is it's sent over the record ID. We've passed that into a set variable. I'm still calling it record ID because I want to show you something later down the bottom there. Then we are getting the record, so we're asking to get the record with the record ID, which has essentially been sent over via webhook, and then we passed it through the tool there. And then I'm just updating the record, so the same record is getting updated, and I'm just saying webhook received. So if we return to Airtable, you will see that this box here has been checked, and let's look at the history of this item. 41 seconds ago the webhook was received. So it's a basic trigger, but it's the foundation for any sort of build that you may have. So you could imagine if you're in make.com and say you wanted to email a client, you could put a module here, right click, and we'll say add module. And if you had your client's email address inside of that Airtable, you could email them. So you could send an email, and then you would just attach the recipient. You put their email address, the content of the subject line, and the content of their email. Another thing you could do is, let's remove this. Let's say you wanted to generate an image. We could add a module and say you're working with Leonardo AI, and you could generate an image. So if you had an image prompt or an AI writing a prompt for you, then you can pop your prompt in here, declare all your models, etc., and then return it to your Airtable. Or you could email it to a client, or you could send it to a website, etc., etc. I mean, what you do with these triggers, I don't know, but I'm just showing you examples. Let us know in the comments below what you might want to trigger, what automations you would want to create and send out or send back to your own Airtable. We're always keen to know how people are going to use our automations. So I'll just remove those. So hopefully you've got the gist of this. Now I'll explain some of the different triggers you can use to set things up. So we've also set up these built-in automations are all the same. All I've done is copied. So I've made a duplicate, and then I've just changed the conditions. So if I show you here, we can change the conditions to when a form is submitted, when a record is created, when a record's updated, when a record enters a view at a scheduled time, when a webhook's received, when a button's clicked. So all sorts of things can set off the trigger to start your automation. You can also have external factors. So if you've synced with your Google Calendar, you can even use when a record's created, when an event is changed, when an event's cancelled. Say someone fills in a Google form, that will get captured. We've also got Google Sheets. So when a row is created, if you sync your Google Sheets with a Airtable, and when a row is created, it can fire a webhook and begin an automation series. We've also got built-in for email and Outlook calendars. So let me just remove this one, and what we will do is, since this one's a copy, we'll delete this. My second automation, it's already switched on, and let's explain the trigger for this. So it's when a record matches a condition, same as the previous build. However, the condition is when a check box is ticked. So we don't need to switch this automation on, they're all switched on. If I go back to make.com, we're going to click run one more time. I'm going to check the box here. I'm not going to show you Airtable. I'm not going to show you the make.com scenario. We're just going to wait patiently here, and you can just see that the webhook has been received. So let's see the record history 6 seconds ago. So very, very fast. But you can imagine if you'd chained in lots of other modules in there, you could be off to the races. So this one here, the next example I'm going to show you, is when a record enters a view. What I've done is I've set up a secondary view here. To do that, you just do like so, grid 3. Okay. But what I've done is I'll show you what I've built out here. So I've got a filter. And basically when a name contains example 3, it will enter this view. So that's why there is only one example here. If I go back to the main grid, and let's just say we remove this 3 from the end. Let's go back and check. Okay, you can see that there are no records existing here. So let's go over. Let's rename it example 3. Okay. Need to go over to make.com, switch the automation on. Let's just double check that the automation is switched on. Is when record enters a view switched on? It is. So we can run the automation. There we are. It's gone through. We go over to our data. You'll see that this has been updated. So the next example I wanted to show you was when if you press a button on an interface. So let's open up the interface. This may be something new for some of you out there. If you've never seen the interfaces, this is a neat little function of Airtable. You can create your own interface. Let's go on to edit. So you create your own interface. You can add all sorts of conditions, record pickers. So basically this works by selecting the records from that field. So I'm going to select example 4. But you can add additional information. You can add text, dividers, grids, kanbans, timelines, galleries, lists, etc., etc. So you can imagine if I had an image, I'd be able to put my hero image here. Some of our previous builds we have used interfaces, so I'll put a reference to one in the top corner. But what I want to show you is that I've got example 4 selected here, and I'm going to click run. Okay, all changes have been saved. Let's view our data. Let's go back to Airtable, make.com, sorry. Let's go back to make.com. Let's just check that the automation is working. Yeah, this is switched on. Let's just double check, test the automation, select the record, example 4, run. Okay, there we are, the automation's fired off. Okay, another way you may want to trigger is by using a form. So if somebody fills in a form and they submit information, maybe you want to email them a response or something. So you can share these forms with people outside of your organization. So let's call this example 8. Example 8, and the condition is I filled in your form. Okay. I filled in your form. I'm going to click submit. Let's run this. Okay. And let's press send. We're going to check, see if this comes through. Another thing I want to do is just make sure that the automation was switched on inside of Airtable. Let's check our automations. No, it wasn't switched on. So let me explain a little bit more about this one before we go into it. You can see that this is different to all the previous builds because it has an extra action. So basically, when the form is submitted, you get your trigger inside of Airtable, and then from here, what we're doing is we are creating a new record inside of the main page. So basically, when a form's filled, information gets put in here, and you can see my record there. It was filled in 52 seconds ago. What I want to do is recreate this information and put it in here. So you'll see here, it creates a new record. So then we run the script, and what we're going to do is this section here. Let's edit the code just so you can see. Everything else is running the same, except what we do is we take the record ID from when a record is created. We're not doing it when the form is submitted because that would update the wrong wrong entry inside of Airtable and crash the automation. So we're doing it when a record is created, and that's in the main view at the start page. So let's do a test. Let's finish this. Let's test, and let's go with example 8. Run the automation. You'll see everything gets picked up. Boom, 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 boom. Go back to our Airtable. And again, this has been filled in here, down here. Now this final one I want to show you is a time-based trigger. So for any of you social media publishers, you want to schedule a post. You've created some content, it's in your Airtable, ready to post. We will be doing a build on posting later this week, or maybe it's already occurred next week, depending on when we release this video. But we have an additional couple of fields here. So as you can see, publication trigger says not yet, not yet, not yet. What we have here is, time with me now is 1:40 on the 28th. So what we're going to do is select today. And if I type in, 1:01:45, 45 PM, you will see that this field here should change to trigger now. Okay, so let me explain what's going on with this field here. So if we go to edit, I can show you the nitty-gritty. So we have a formula field, and the formula is if and an and statement. So the date-time difference of publication date and the time now, which is this element here, is more than 0 and is less than 15, print trigger now. If it's not, print not yet. So this will explain all of this. So now what we can do is we can have an automation that will run. So basically when the condition is, we're going to say when the publication trigger is trigger now, we will trigger the automation. You may think, okay, why not? Let's just create a new automation for you. You can see here that there's a scheduled time. And you think, okay, yeah, I can do that. That would work. The problem we have is this is fixed. You can either do by the minute, by the hour, by the day, by the week, or once. We can't make anything dynamic. We can't say, hey, take the information from field, publication date, and the time from time date, the time publication. It doesn't work. So this is the workaround that we've found works really, really well. And just to cover yourself, there's a 15-minute window between 0 and less than 15, because the automations can be a bit slow inside of Airtable. So what I'm going to do is just quickly delete that one, because it's not required. And then we will return to our data here. And let's go over to Airtable. Let's switch this on. Let's test the automation. Let's test publication. Run test. There we are. You can see it's only record 7. And now we're going to run the automation. You'll see it come through, update, and move on. Okay, so I believe we've covered everything. Yes, we have. So there is one more thing. For those of you that are probably running, say you're new to Airtable, you may not have a premium account. Maybe you're just on a freemium account, which allows you to have 100 automations every month. You'll run into difficulties because this function here of running a script to send a webhook is a premium feature. So you'll be able to do it for the first 14 days during the trial, but you won't be able to run a script afterwards. So there is a workaround. I'm going to show you by replicating everything. Everything here is the same. So when a status, you remember the first example, when status equals send a webhook, what we're going to do is replace run script with send an email. And what you have to be careful with is when you send an email, you can only send to collaborators inside of your base. So what you're going to have to do is, let me just swap the triggers here. And we're just going to change this here to subject. Okay, so this is all happy. You can get inside of make.com, you can get what's called a custom mail hook. And what that does is it allows you to have an inbox that's just sat here waiting, listening for an incoming email from your from wherever you send emails. So you can send emails from Airtable. So what we need to do is, if I delete this, click OK, delete anyway. So let's add a new one, and I'll explain everything for you. We're going to do, if you can't find it, I'm just going to type in mail hook. Mail hook. Okay, and it's inside of the webhooks. If you go onto a custom mail hook, what you need to do is create a new hook. So I'm going to do this again. Ultimate Airtable and make.com build. Okay, now what you want to do is copy this email address. Very important you do it in these steps. Now run this module only. We're going to go back to our Airtable. We're going to go to our data so it's nice and clean. We're going to share this base, invite by email. What you need to do is go on to read only. If you select any of these here, you'll be charged $20 a month. But if you give someone read only access, then it's for free. We're going to invite them. And we're going to send the invite. Okay. Now what we'll do is we'll go back over to our make.com scenario, and you can see here that we've received an invitation. Just going to close it. See how we have the one in the spyglass here? And it says that there is an invitation link. What you need to do is copy this HTTP link. So right click, copy. If you open up a private browser so that you're not logged in, what we're going to do is paste that link. Click OK. And now we will just create an account. So we can call this whatever name you want. So I'm going to call it Ultimate Airtable Build. And you can give it whatever password you want. Click Create. Now that we have a collaborator inside of our base, we can send emails to them. So what we'll do is we'll just, for the sake of it, one thing that's useful is just to turn off the notification preferences. So there we are. Close that down. We don't need to open this again. What we can do now is we will copy the email again one more time. So copy to clipboard. What we're going to do is come to our automation inside of Airtable, and then see this module here, send an email. We will paste it here, and then what we're going to do is pass over the record ID. So here it's passing in a variable, so it comes from when the record matches the condition. Okay, delete the previous one. And you just need to put something in the message column. You can't leave it blank, so I've just put mail hooks for the win. So let's switch the automation on now. Oh, one moment, sorry. Just need to correct that. So if we put in subject, I know it says email here. David No Code Gmail invited you, but the next time we run this, it will be correct. So I'm going to switch on. We're going to come back. We're going to test the automation. Let's select the record. Okay, before we do this actually, just so you can see a change in the document, I'm going to uncheck this here. Going to go to the automation and select the record. When the condition is met, we're going to run the automation. Go to our Airtable. See, it's functioned exactly the same. So it's sent through everything, and then if we come back to our Airtable data, you'll see that this has been checked again. If I just show you, it was updated 13 seconds ago. Okay, so yeah, that's everything I wanted to show you. So this is the final little snippet, for those of you that have watched all the way through. If you notice up here in my notifications, I've got 17 notifications. look at the very top one here. I've earned $10 in Airtable credit for inviting Ultimate Airtable Base to Airtable. So if you get 24 of these credits, you will then be eligible to exchange the credits for a year's subscription to Airtable. So a neat little trick for you. So I'm going to hand you back over to Alex now, and I look forward to seeing you on the next build.
Thank you, David, for explaining the triggers in Airtable in full detail. If you're interested in stuff like this and you want to learn more about Airtable and connecting make.com, we have a couple of automations coming up for you every week now. So this week we covered trigger points. Next we'll be talking about linked records, interface design, extensions, field types and formulas. And if you want to learn more about AI and AI automations, please check out our school community where we have loads and loads of automations ready for you to go. You just have to download them, import them into your own Make account, and you're ready to go. Until next time, bye-bye.